Grapes like more, they like to dig more, they like to stress themselves, they like to challenge themselves in the soil, and they don't really require that big nutrient. They like, the rougher the better, like limestone or breaking through shale rock in Europe or something. So grapes don't exactly like bottom ground. They like altitude, they like sloping, they like different angles, correlation to the sun, different microclimates and soils as we enjoy here. As you traverse from here to, say, Jacksonville, you're gonna encompass, 6, 8, 10 different microclimates and soil types. This valley gets some nice warmth to it, which is obviously pivotal for the grapes. We also get a nice coolness from the ocean. We're like 60 miles as a crow flies, so we still get that cool breeze, and so our berries get to cool down at night. Our altitude is really good. I think our growing region here is somewhere between 1,400 feet and about 22.5 or 2,300 feet. So many varieties grow and varietals grow in this valley really well. Basically, grapes are like human beings. As we grow, we all get character. We start off as adolescents, and then we go into like a young teenager and young adults and sort of parent-grandparent kind of things. And as grapes develop in their own climate or a natural habitat, after a while, a product of their environment.
And wine grapes in themselves have a range that really is only suitable across a fairly narrow zone of the mid-latitudes. You don't see them being grown very much elsewhere. So then when you talk about wine grapes being grown across a narrow climate environment, if you look at in any individual variety, like say Cabernet Sauvignon or Pinot Noir or something like that, that is even more narrow in terms of its climate niche or its environment.
The variety of mesoclimates that we have, which helps us to grow a variation of varietals. The weather is the largest controlling factor in everything that we do. And what's kind of cool in a way is it's also the one thing, or not the only thing, but it is something that we cannot control. And that always adds a little bit of spice into the practice. Whether or not, if it's a cool year, you potentially have grapes that have less sugar. If they have less sugar, there'll be less fruit flavor in a sense. If you have a particularly hot year, you could potentially have higher sugars, which then create higher alcohols and sometimes, wines that have a little bit more body. You could have a freeze early that damages buds. You could have a freeze late in the season. It's really, you can't do anything without it, obviously. You can't do anything really to control it. That said, generally speaking, the weather that we have year to year is as consistent as perhaps the weather can be, which is only consistent in its inconsistency. Probably 8 out of 10 years here is a good year. 3 out of those 10 are fantastic. The majority of regions where I've worked, that isn't the case. Maybe half are good, half are okay, and 1 year out of 10 is great.
I always look at it this way. Climate's the first cut. Geology and soil kind of mediate the relationship between nutrition and water availability within a given climate, and then landscape enhances or minimizes the climate within a given area. Southern Oregon's got a climate, I think, that number one is quite diverse. We have the ability within our region to grow quite a wide range of varieties because we have relatively cool areas that are a little bit more closer to the coast and a little higher in elevation. And then we have some places that are a little bit more inland that are a little drier and a little warmer. And so we have this very diverse range of climates. We also have a growing season that has a tendency to be very defined by when we break out of winter and into spring versus when we break out of summer and go into fall. And that produces the kind of conditions that you can ripen fruit to really high quality standards for wine production.
The wines in this area really are some of the best in Oregon. Production-wise, we produce a fraction of what's produced everywhere else. We actually have the oldest grape growing region in Oregon. It was here in 1858. I believe it was Peter Britt planted the first vineyard. So we have a long legacy of grape growing and producing wine. And we're at a point in our own development where we're really getting our stride. We're really producing, as I said, I think some of the best wines in Oregon.
One of the things I think we often have to consider is that in our region, we are somewhat isolated from major population areas. So we're about halfway between San Francisco and Portland. And if you look at most wine grape growing regions in the world, they are successful not only because they make good quality wine, but largely because they have a large metropolitan area somewhere close. What the wine industry has been doing is trying to couple our own regional kind of economics for their businesses into capturing that tourism component to build on kind of this connection between the natural beauty and the beauty of vineyards and wineries within our area and the products they produce. And so I think there's a tremendous amount of growth in that area. And we'll need to do that because we don't have that metropolitan area to drive all of our economic influences with wine grapes. So tying into tourism is extremely important.
Anytime you support your local business, that money stays in that area. We have a huge local support in this entire area for the Rogue Valley. It is a major growing region now, and people here are really enjoying that. And like other growing regions throughout this area or south, it is something that people really enjoy and love and support.